Chaos, who will be talking about her session, Looking Beyond Trauma and Resilience for Emerging Perspectives in Disaster Mental Health.
Good evening, I'm Heather Cook, and my background is actually in public health and emergency preparedness, and doing that work I became interested in mental health and pursued that. So I'm standing here tonight actually coming from both perspectives. So the trauma therapist in me is like, of course this is important, and the scientist and emergency manager understands, for some of you that are here, I don't know if this applies to me, so I'm just encouraging you for the next 5 minutes, open up to the possibility it might. When was the last time we all slowed down and remembered why we truly do this work? Yeah, take a breath. As you see these images, take it in, not from your mind, but through your heart, your gut. Keep breathing. And look at the stories and the emotions here. This is the level of being human. And I would say that disaster mental health has to do with the human experience in a very intense scenario. Being human involves what's going on in our mind, our hearts, our bodies, the spirit, the soul, and everything in between that and the next person next to us. During a disaster, it is so heightened, our human experience. We are so aware of everything. It's an individual, yet it's a collective experience, and that's what we're talking about here. So please widen your idea of what we're talking about with mental health. It is not just about intervening to help survivors overcome certain things. Here tonight, I'm talking about what the collective psyche needs, and we need a new way of being if these disasters are going to keep coming, and they are. The catastrophes will keep coming, and how do we deal with them? The question that comes up for us is really, how do we be in a world now that the world we used to know no longer is? And this is really the deep question that comes up for a lot of us after a disaster and witnessing a disaster. So also expand there. Think about us, the professionals, as well as the world witnessing all these things going on in the world. We're actually at an edge. How do we live at that edge? What are we doing? And how do we go beyond what we know to do and step into the new place to come up with the innovative ideas? So I'd like to challenge all of us to actually consider our mindsets as professionals and citizens, how that brings us into the new space. Disaster mental health, psychology, and sociology already tells us we know the outcomes. After an event, we're all going to be stressed, overwhelmed, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, whether it's depression, a sense of despair, questioning the world. But we also sometimes don't mention the positive aspects. All of a sudden, we slow down and reconnect. Remember, what do we really love doing? Who do we love in the world? We reassess our priorities, our values, and we also come up with a new appreciation for life. And what determines who stays in the state of more of a negative space and who's kind of has that experience, because it is human to have that experience after these disasters, takes it in, moves through it, works with it, and moves beyond it. That's dependent on several different factors, and the research shows us this. So that is your personal view of the world. Where were you the day before the event happened? What was your mental state? Were you going through a rough time already or not? Do you have a history? Do you have a trauma history? Does that actually help you because you're more resilient because you mastered that? Or is it actually something that this disaster is going to push you over the edge? All here, race, ethnicity, your ego structure, our perception of what happened. So if something's intentional or non-intentional, man-made or human-made, it impacts that. It's not just the hurricane, the tornado, the flood. That's the problem. It's not that day of, it's the sequela of events. Unemployment, the loss, displacement, all that paperwork that you have to fill out for FEMA. We have ways to intervene. It's really more of a sense of community, and it goes beyond the individual therapy. Trauma. This is a big word, right? Simply put, it's an overwhelming experience where you feel helpless. We all have that. What makes it trauma is when it stays inside us and we live through that lens. When we move into it, move through it, and then go beyond it, that's what we call resilience. And both models are brilliant. And we need both models in an integrated balance to help communities recover, because we have to learn how to grow and move beyond. However, there is a real risk for both these models. And I know I'm challenging the field by saying this. The trauma model does not fully honor and respect the healing capacity of the human spirit, and the resilient model sometimes does not respect and honor the suffering that people go through. So take a moment again, slow down, and tap into that place of the human experience. When we're at this edge, when we're standing here, sometimes what breaks us down also breaks us open into new possibilities. And that's where we're going. How do we live in a paradox? How do we live in a place of destruction as well as beauty? Here's my challenge to all of us. Maybe the question is not just about attending to the mental health needs, but how do we step into the unknown, the uncertainty? How do we deal with our own vulnerabilities and the chaos? Because it's really in the chaos. It's there where it's such a mess, where there's darkness, where there's that void, where actually if you can work into it, you actually find a place of newness emerging. And that applies to us. It's not just what we're doing as professionals, it's how we're doing it. How can we actually go into the messiness and step out through it and have a clearer mindset? Because it does include our mindsets. And I know, oh, wow, just saw a little people like, whoa, I'm not willing to go there into my own vulnerability. Just think about it. So all I'm asking today is inviting you to think about that. So the statistician in me, this probably looks familiar to most of you. Everybody in this room is going ahead and working on reducing vulnerabilities, mitigating impact, or building capacities. This is the same way you could actually conceptualize the suffering of the person, of the individual, and communities. So actually, everybody in this room plays a role in this equation. So you are actually, directly or indirectly, working with mental health and the human experience. Here, I'm going to leave you with one last thought. We shape our identity only at the edge between the self and the world. Disasters push us to that edge, and it's up to us what we do next in order to transform.
Thank you, Heather. That was so as you can